set us to record. My name is Sharon Rankin, and we are a part of the Mission Possible team, Mission Possible for Health and Hope. And I am delighted to welcome you to our weekly Monday team call. Every week when we come together, it is to remind us of our mission, which globally is inspiring healthy living around the world. And as we continually be reminded, not only are we inspiring healthy living, but we are also making a difference. We're inspired and aspire to make a difference. To make a difference will make a living. And our focus in our team with the mission-driven model, or our company, is to unify so that we can simplify, or simplify that we can unify. And tonight we have a very special speaker. Many of you probably don't need an introduction to Jill Herman. We saw her not too long ago on the Pajama Regional, one of our global exposures to the Juice Plus community, and Jill just truly inspired us with her story and her energy. And I have had the pleasure of meeting Jill some time ago. Jill, I think you were a sales coordinator when I first heard you at a regional, and right now I don't even remember what city it was in, but I do remember listening to you that time and thinking, this girl is going to be a national marketing director, a leader in our company, no doubt about it. And that is exactly what she is doing, and continues to guide and lead. And one of the things that we have been focusing on for the last several weeks and months is the freedom revolution. Simplifying our resources, simplifying our focus so that we're unified and that we duplicate in all that we do. And when I heard Jill speak about her team and what they're doing, the focus with the Freedom Revolution, and I know the growth that they are having, I invited her to come and speak. She is a nurse, retired nurse, RN. She is a mom, a wife, and definitely a dynamic leader. And her story has been inspiring literally tens of thousands of people ever since she joined the Juice Plus mission. So, Jill, welcome, and thank you for joining us on our call this evening.
Oh gosh, thank you so much. What an introduction. I'm such a big fan of Sharon's. I'm so grateful that I get to call her a friend. A lot of people are jealous of me because they're like, how do you know Sharon Rankin? I'm like, I've known her for a long time. So I'm very grateful that we're friends, and she's my mentor. And I know you've heard this, but you're so fortunate to be on her team and to be able to get to be in front of her and learn from her. So I will share my story, but I just want to reiterate what Sharon said, that what we're going to talk about is going to be very comforting, I think, to you, which is just really whittling things down and making it even simpler. And I know there's so much out there, so many resources, and I was just on a call with some of my leaders, and we were talking about that. It's okay to be real about that and say, oh my gosh, sometimes my head's spinning. There's stuff here, there's stuff there. And I have really been a fan of keeping things simple for a while, but this website has really helped us to do that. And I know starting, to do that new for some people can cause them to feel like a fish out of water and make people a little itchy, but it's always good to hear when someone else is doing it. So I'll share with you that we've tried it, and it really does work. So before that, I'll share with you my story, because it's always good. If anyone's new, raise your hand if you're in the first 6 months of your business. Is there anybody in the first 6 months who's on tonight? I'm sure there are people watching the recording that will be. Anybody in their first year?
Yes, we have quite a few, actually.
Yeah, great. Okay. So even if you aren't new, I think you would agree that we're always students, and we're always learning and just tweaking things. And so we always start by sharing our story, because it's important for people to hear so many different perspectives. And it's not that what I say in my story is necessarily going to resonate with every single person, but when you hear someone's story, it's always good to have your antenna up and think to yourself, oh, I wonder if I know someone who might be able to relate to what she said. And you can even just borrow my story and say, hey, I heard some woman talking the other night and she said. So that's why it's always good to share your story and hear other people's stories. So I'll give you a little bit longer version than what I would give normally, right? We try to keep our stories very brief normally. But with you all, I'll give you a little more detail. So I heard about Juice Plus 11 and a half years ago from a complete stranger. Now, as I'm sharing my story, I want you to hear that there are certain things I'm making sure I'm saying to you, right? I want you to hear that I said complete stranger, because you might say, oh gosh, what if I brought this up to someone I didn't know? They would think it was strange. And it changed my life. I had never met her. So make sure you're telling people, even if you don't know them. So she was a complete stranger. And I didn't eat well. I was the person who shoved my salad off to the side and didn't eat vegetables. I'm embarrassed to say, but I didn't. I ate, a couple different pieces of fruit, and that was about it. I didn't understand that nutrition was important, even though I was a nurse. And when I heard about this Juice Plus, it was actually from a Yale-educated doctor, but I would have listened if anyone had told me, because when someone told me that I could get all the food I wasn't eating in a capsule, I thought that sounded super easy and really convenient. And so when she shared that with me, I was more than intrigued. Now, you'll have people, obviously, that you share with that won't be intrigued at all. And you have some people who will be intrigued, but they're just not ready yet. I was one of those people that was intrigued, ready, and she didn't have to say much. And that doesn't happen a lot. I know that, right? It doesn't happen with most people I talk to. But I was one of those people that it just made sense right away. Not because I'm any smarter, that's for sure. It just was an inkling or like a nudge. I don't know what your beliefs are. Everyone calls things different things. But for me, it's the Holy Spirit. I just felt this nudge that I was supposed to be listening to her. And so when she shared Juice Plus with me, I didn't understand it, and I didn't need to understand it. What I really heard was her heart, right? So when you're sharing your story, it's not really about knowing it all or having all the answers or understanding it. It's really just sharing your heart. And she didn't have a big health recovery story to tell me either. That's another piece of the story that's a lesson. She didn't actually have anything impressive to tell me that she had this and then it was gone. And I still wanted it. When she told me that it was the one food group no one ate enough of, and that it was in a really convenient, affordable form, a capsule or a gummy, I was intrigued. And then she said, I just can't imagine my life without this. It's just given me such peace of mind as a mom. And so that really hit my heart. So I ordered Juice Plus with zero expectations. In my heart, it looked good. In my brain, it made sense that I probably needed it, but I had no expectations at all. I thought it's going to get rid of some mom guilt, make my life a little easier, and at least I can say I'm eating some fruits and vegetables. That's all I expected. What happened with me is what happens with everybody, right? You don't need all the details. We got really healthy. All the things I thought were normal, like allergies and irritable bowel and migraines and exhaustion and a constipated child and one with eczema, that was our normal. All of that was resolved somewhere around 9 or 10 months. All of it was gone. Now, you might think that's why I started sharing Juice Plus. That's not true. I started sharing Juice Plus before it even was shipped out, before the product order was placed. And I'm not saying that's right and in any other way is wrong, but that's what happened with me. Why am I telling you that? Because some people think that they can't share Juice Plus until they have a health story, until they have changes, until they feel something, right? So for me, what I said, I started my business without knowing it. I called the doctor I worked for. I called the doctor whose kids I had nannied for years because I love them. I called my brother-in-law and I called my best friend. This was all on the car ride between hearing about Juice Plus and getting home. And I said, you won't believe it. I met this woman and she told me about this stuff. She said, and then I just repeated it. And they said, you've got to be kidding. I'm not kidding. How do I get it? I don't know. I'll ask that lady. That's how my business started. So I'm just sharing that because you'll have people on your team who might say, well, I would like to share this, but I really want to wait till I experience it. And that's not bad or wrong either. But I always invite new people and just say, well, try this on and see how this feels. Would you be willing to consider that there might be some people who deserve to hear about it before you feel something? You don't have to. And I certainly won't ask you to do anything before you're ready. But would you be willing to consider that? And I will tell you 9 times out of 10 people say, well, I might consider that. You see, because I didn't say, well, that's ridiculous. Why would you not tell people until you feel something? That's selfish, right? Because that's what you want to say. And I know that's not what we're training on tonight, but in my story, I'm kind of giving you a little bit of a training. So I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand it, but I just shared from my heart, and they were open to learning more. And so I did call the person back who shared Juice Plus with me. And I said, hey, I'm that person you shared with a little bit ago. And I got to tell you, this smells really good. Like there's something about it that I feel like we need it. I didn't ask how much it cost. And I had no money, by the way. That's how good it smelled to me. And so I said, here's something you don't know about me. And then I told her my behind the scenes. Like everybody has the highlight reel, right? How are you? Great. How are you? Awesome. Nice to see you, right? Of course, we're not going to, spill our guts in the grocery store or, as soon as we walk into church and tell everybody everything behind the scenes, because that would be what Brene Brown calls oversharing, right? But let's admit that we're not authentic as often as we need to be. And a lot of people don't really know what's happening in our lives. And so it looked like life was perfect for me because I made it look like that. But I shared with this complete stranger my behind the scenes. I shared with her what I'm going to tell you right now. I said, here's the thing. I said, I have no idea what you really do. I don't understand it, but there's something telling me that maybe I could sell this stuff. And here's what's funny. I've never sold anything in my life. Sales makes me itchy. I'm a nurse and I'm a mom and I've never had a business, but I feel like everybody would be interested in this. Nobody's eating right. And all of my friends, I was 36 years old at the time, all of my friends are trying to get their kids to eat better. What would it look like if I worked with you? And I thought, you guys, that I would be like a pharmaceutical rep working for her and she owned the company. That's what I thought. Well, then she explained what you already know, how it works and what it is and what it's not. But she said a couple of things that I will tell you stood out that I always say to this day. She said, well, you wouldn't work for me, you'd work with me. And you could go at whatever pace you want. You could work it at any hours you feel like you can. You'll have no quotas, no inventory, and no pressure. You just get a friend that will help you do whatever you want to do with this. And I said, yes, yes, and yes. And I still say that to people to this day. So that's how my business started. All right. So before we get to our topic, I just want to share with you that I've learned so many lessons along the way. And I'm going to share a few of them, if you don't mind, before we get to talking about the Freedom Revolution, because I think it's really important. I think that I don't want to just talk to you about simplifying and using that website, because I don't want to not share some things that were big game changers for me. The first thing I want to share with you is that I've learned in this 11 years that we don't hear enough and we don't say enough to ourselves and to maybe to our team, but especially to ourselves, that we're doing a great job. I think so many of us in this business are always feeling like we're not doing enough. Have you ever felt like that? You're not getting it right. You're failing. Why does it work for other people and it doesn't work for me? And I've never said this really before recently on calls, but I just feel like that's something that we don't talk about a lot, but I spent a lot of time beating myself up and feeling like I wasn't doing well and not understanding that my team felt that way. So while I was trying to help them move forward, I wasn't acknowledging that they were doing a great job. So I just want you to know that just that you're in this business, you're doing a great job. Because let me just be real for a minute. This is not for the faint of heart. This isn't hard. I wouldn't call this business hard, but it's certainly not easy. And it's a challenge. And you have to look at yourself and find your blind spots and walk through some messy stuff that's uncomfortable and get out of your comfort zone. And I mean, let's be real, guys. Our prospects are mostly our family and friends. It's a little weird at first, isn't it? It can feel weird doing this, but I just want to say that because so many times people feel like maybe this isn't for me. No, it is for you. If you were called to do this, do it at whatever pace you need to do it. Just don't ever quit. Just keep sticking with it. And you're being polished like a stone. You're learning things about yourself and you're growing in ways that you cannot grow outside of this business. I just told a friend of mine recently, I just figured out what a podcast was. I didn't even know what that was like a month ago. And I'm like, well, how did I not know what these were? And I keep listening to them. And I realized, you know what? I can listen to podcasts till the cows come home. And they will never do what this business does for me. Podcasts are great. Books are great. They're important. You've heard leaders are readers. It's important. And Sharon knows I'm bold. I don't hold back. The other thing I'll say is you can listen to all the podcasts in the world and go to all the personal development courses you want and read 100 books a week. I truly believe 100% that this business of getting out of our comfort zone, sharing something with others, and being in an industry that some people don't understand will grow you in ways that no book, nothing else ever could. So that's why I encourage you to just never quit. Just keep sticking with it, because you're growing even if you don't feel like you are, okay? Another thing on that is that sometimes I feel like we get a little lopsided, or we have like one big bicep and then a flaccid arm that has no muscle. So like the bicep might be what's easy for us. So maybe for us, getting customers, it may not be easy, but it's like our sweet spot, and it's what we feel comfortable doing. So we have no problem getting customers, but we're not comfortable talking about inviting people into our mission, because we use the build a team phrase, which can be scary to me. I like to just say invite people into the mission. And so you have this little flaccid arm over here that isn't getting used, but it's easy to just flash your big bicep around everybody, right? And it's easy to tell yourself that you're doing great because of that. But what if you decided to not do very well and go ahead and fail 100 times, but work on that other bicep, right? What if you just got out of your comfort zone? I encourage you. I didn't do that enough. And I have team members that don't do that enough. And now they're starting to, and they say, you know what? It doesn't feel very good. Well, of course it doesn't. When you're building muscle, it hurts. It doesn't feel good at all. You're ripping it down and building it up. But when you do that, you're more in balance and you start growing in ways. Is this making sense? Like you keep doing this, you're not going to really grow that much. That muscle can't get that much bigger. But you start doing this one, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm growing in a different way. I feel different. This is unusual for me. And you will develop different skills and gifts about yourself that you didn't know you had, okay? Or discover different gifts about yourself. So just don't be lopsided. Try your best to force yourself and find a buddy in this team and say, okay, I'm going to do it. Because I'll tell you, the weak muscle for all of us, let's be totally honest, is team building, right? That just the word team building, I know that's scary, just even saying that. And we won't do it. We could do 5-hour training just on that topic. What I have discovered recently, because Sharon wanted me to share some of the things I've discovered in the last year that has really gotten me out of a stagnant period in my business where I wasn't growing. The one thing I realized about the team building piece was that, you know what? I think I'm making it a little too intimidating for people. What if our team just focused on inviting people into our community? And so we've grown a lot in the last year, just inviting people into the community. It's not scary doing that because you're not expecting anything out of them. They're not really expecting anything. And the people who are going to get excited like you did, they will show up. You won't be able to predict it. Just inviting people into the community, the cream will rise to the top. You'll find the ones that want to do the freedom revolution. You'll find the ones who will let you start them up. I promise you, it doesn't have a lot to do with you. I used to think everything had to do with me. Have you ever felt like that? You feel like there's something wrong with me because I find all these people and they're not doing anything. They don't come to the events and they don't follow through and they don't this and they don't that. I had a revelation about 1.5 years ago that I'm not that important. And I realized I'm accepting responsibility for all of their failures. But guess what else I'm doing? I'm bragging about all their successes and taking credit. So what I felt like God said to me was, well, the reason you keep holding on to their failures is because you're holding on to their successes as well. Right? I do it too. Look at my team. Look what my team member did. And I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm making fun of myself, if anybody. Okay? But just think about this. It's normal in Juice Plus. I'm a rebel. I'm telling you, I just say what I think. It is normal in Juice Plus. Look what my team member did. My team did this. But think about it. You didn't do anything different with Mary than you did with Sally than you did with Joe. Joe decided he was going to do those things. You did the same thing with everybody. So what helped me that I think will help you is when I let go of feeling like taking credit for their success, I stopped taking credit for their failures. And you guys, I found total freedom. I have never been happier in this business. I've always loved it. But I just hope that you'll hear that. It has changed the whole spirit of my team. We are all we're not complacent, relaxed, not doing anything relaxed. We're relaxed while we're moving forward. We're not feeling pressure. We're having fun. We're inviting people into our community, realizing that the people will show up or they won't. But then it comes to what we're going to talk about. We have a strong, clear, simple system. And for us, that system is the freedom revolution. And I understand that there are some people, I shouldn't say a lot, there are some people in the business that are still starting everybody out with the mission-driven model. That is not bad and wrong. Okay. I will just tell you in my experience, it slows them down. And that's no criticism of that system. It's a beautiful system. What I would invite you to consider is showing it to them after they reach their 2000 plus. Because it is definitely like a library within a library within a library, right? You can get lost in there. And it can be very distracting and exciting, right? And then before you know it, a month's gone by and no orders have gone in. So what I decided to do at the conference when they introduced the Freedom Revolution is I thought, I'm just going to be super teachable. I am going to start over myself as a national marketing director. I'm going to pretend I'm brand new. And I really did. I relaunched myself. I watched the videos. I did the whole thing. And then I went out myself and got 15 new customers, brand new customers, using the videos from the Freedom Revolution. And then I talked to my team members about it and said, let's just do this as an experiment. And guys, every single person came back and said, oh my gosh, this is such a relief. This is so much simpler. This is so much easier. Now, at first we felt like we needed our security blanket, which was what? Information overload. We felt like we needed all these things. And what if someone has this disease? And what if they have this? And let's send them 25 videos on that and all these recorded phone calls. That was our comfort zone before. So it is going to feel a little uncomfortable at first. I'm telling you from my own experience, for a full year of doing this, there's not a single person on my team that would tell you they miss the old way. They just don't. So what happens is the way we're doing this is that I can see names here. So there's Joan. I'm going to pretend that Joan, you're my new team member. And so when Joan says that she's open to looking at joining our community, whatever that looks like, right? Of course, I'm sure you've heard this a million times from Sharon. The first thing I'm going to do is say, oh gosh, how fast can I get Joan in front of somebody on my team, right? How fast can I get Joan in front of someone who can share their own story, right? When you say upline and three-way call, that's itchy and weird and doesn't feel good. But if I say, I want Joan to just hear another story from a friend of mine in our community, that's not weird at all. So I can't wait to get Joan in front of someone's story. Hopefully it's on some kind of a phone call, or we like to do FaceTime on our phone because it's on our team. It's a lot more personal than a phone call where you can see each other. Zoom is great too. For some people, they don't know how to use Zoom. They're a little uncomfortable. So we do a lot of FaceTimes. Now on iPhones, I know not everybody has an iPhone, but on iPhones, you can do FaceTime with as many as 30 people. It's a new feature. It's amazing on the newer phones. So I can get Joan on the phone if I wanted to with 5 other people, but we'll do a 3-way connection, right? As fast as we can. The other thing I'm going to do is as soon as I can, I'm going to get Joan in front of our community, not just one person, but an event, something I can drag her to if I have to, so she can feel the heartbeat of our company and our community. You want her to feel the heartbeat as fast as she can through a phone conversation, right? And through some kind of event. Anything. I don't care if it's, salad in a jar and 2 people show up, get her there and just let her meet some people. And even if it's just a hug, she's going to feel the heartbeat. And at this point, guys, there's no talk about goals. We don't know what Joan's going to do. And honestly, we don't care. We just want Joan to connect with us. Okay. And then what I love to tell Joan is, and you have to believe this to be able to say it, Joan, the best part is that we have the simplest way to give you what you need so that you can share this effectively with people at whatever pace you want to, whatever that looks like for you, right? Wouldn't say to Joan, if she doesn't really know what's going on and she's not sure, I wouldn't really say to her, hey, I'm going to start you up and we're going to do a launch. And I won't use those words unless Joan's like officially is saying, yes, I want to start a business and I'm ready. Does that make sense? I'm pretending that Joan's just someone who's ordered and we're just kind of introducing her to the community. What I don't recommend, I know I'm digressing a little bit, but this is important. What I do not recommend that I still see people doing on my team, and they're not the people doing well, by the way, is if Joan doesn't seem like a goal getter and a goal, she's going to do this and she's going to go, then they just do nothing with her. There's no introduction. There's no 3-way call. There's no startup. There's no Freedom Revolution. I would never recommend that because nothing will happen with Joan. What I want Joan to have is options. So I'm going to say to Joan, so Joan, I told you that I want to introduce you to this community. I would love to have you as a part of this. And that could look very different for you from other people. And everybody does it at whatever capacity they choose. We have some people who, they just can't wait to help everybody at their church, everybody in their neighborhood. And you'll probably want to be that person like that. And some people, honestly, their goal is they just can't wait to make enough money that pays for all their Juice Plus for their whole family. And for other people, they're not even thinking about that. They're just excited to pay this forward. So I just start giving her examples of all the different ways people plug in. And you know what, Joan, whatever you do is perfect with us. But here's the kicker, guys. We say to everybody, and I don't know who it was who said it on stage. I'm totally stealing this. But we say to everybody, what we do with everybody, though, is we give them all the same start. You see how I didn't ask Joan, would it be okay with you if I showed you a website? Would it be okay with you? I don't ask her that. Joan will be able to determine after we get her started with Freedom Revolution what she wants to do. Okay, is that clear? So if Joan is just kind of not knowing what's going on, my comfort zone is going to tell me, oh, don't do anything with Joan. You're going to freak her out. She's going to run away. Nope. This is where what I call this is having a bold, sweet, kind confidence. Like, I'm the thermostat, not the thermometer. What's the difference, right? The thermostat doesn't change their temperature. The thermostat sets the temperature. So I am going to meet Joan where she is while still not changing my temperature. And I know that sounds counterintuitive, but my temperature is never going to change. What's my temperature? Freedom Revolution. It's never changing. I will never change that. No matter how much Joan pleads or begs or tries to bribe me. This is just what we do. But, right, Joan gets to decide what she's going to do after that. She gets to go at her own pace. She can have goals or not. I used to be afraid to talk like that. Everybody has goals. Everybody has to do this. I realize I'm not that important. Joan will decide. But here's the thing. If you're bold with the system, guys, and you don't vary, and you say, this is our system, Joan at least has a fighting chance. She at least has a fighting chance, because what happens in the Freedom Revolution, it's not just do this, do that. What else is on there? On that home page of that website are those amazing Zooms. There are stories, there are people, there are community, there's a heartbeat. So it's not just a checklist of what to do. That's what I love about it. So I always have, so again, if you want to go back to what we do, so with Joan, I would say, okay, so the very first thing, Joan, even if she says, sign me up, I'm ready. I always say, well, the very first thing, we have the most amazing website that was created by our community. And here's the deal, guys. That's not disrespectful to the company to say that, but I like saying that it came from the field. I even say it came from people like you. And I say this too, it's not fancy. You're going to see people sitting in front of a computer. Don't say Zoom. They don't know what that is. I just say you'll have people sitting in front of their own computer, just talking to you and sharing from their hearts. And I hope you're okay with me saying this, but I say, you know what? All of us were kind of reading a little script in the beginning, because I'm on one of them. And if you guys look, it's like, welcome to the Freedom Revolution. It's okay. I just say, you know what? We're real people, and we're all just reading a script to make sure we were consistent, but then it goes straight to the heartfelt stories. You're going to love it, Joan. When you look at those different videos, pick which one looks good to you. Whichever one looks good to you, just get on there and watch it, and we'll talk about it. And then I'm going to give you a password, and that's when you get to look behind the scenes. And when you get to look behind the scenes, you're going to be able to have the best start possible. And what that means, Joan, is that we're going to show you, when you do want to share this, whenever that is, what's the most effective way to share it, right? How do you talk to your friends and your family without feeling uncomfortable or weird? How do you share it in a way that they receive you really well? Do you see how I'm like selling her on the system? I'm already telling her how great it's going to be. I'm not saying, oh, here's some link. Go check it out. Let me know. I'm saying, oh, gosh, Joan, you're going to love it. And again, there's no pressure on Joan to have goals at this point. But I'm also not sitting back and assuming she'll have no goals. What I'm doing is giving her what I call a fighting chance. So we've got this amazing system in our hands. And I would recommend that all of you do what I did, not because it's me, but restart yourself. Relaunch yourself if you haven't. Don't worry about it if you didn't do it a year ago. Who cares? Do it tomorrow. Relaunch yourself. Watch those videos. You know, go through the Get Started section. If you haven't done it, you click on a password. You type in Revolution, and you get to see behind the scenes that it says Get Started. And in that Get Started section, there are videos from people who are in the field sharing with you how to talk to people, how to have an event. Now, here's the important point here. There's a little confusion about, is it too much for someone to have 8 or 10 videos to watch, right? So here's what I say. Don't make the decision for them. What I like to say, so we'll go with Joan again. So Joan, thanks for playing along. So I'd say to Joan, okay, so after you kind of look at the front and see those stories, here's the password, and it's going to let you behind the scenes. Like, it makes you feel special. Only people who are in our community get to see this part. And when you get to the second part, this is the coolest part about it. People just like you, but they've reached the top position in our company. They volunteered their time to make these really helpful videos for people just like you. And that gives me goosebumps. I love saying that to people. They're dedicated their time just to create this for people like you, because they want people like you to feel really comfortable sharing this, so they don't feel like they're selling something, right? Because what's the biggest fear people have? I don't want to sell, right? I'm afraid to be salesy and pushy. So tell them this is to help you not do that. So that's going to make Joan very excited to be a part of this. So now I could just throw it at her and say, let me know when you're done, right? I found that that doesn't work. What we say is, okay, so I don't know how you like to learn best, how you like to learn. Some people love information and they're going to watch all the videos at one time, and that's fine. Most people, that's a little bit much for. So you do either one. What most people like to do, you see how I'm telling her, I'm kind of nudging her along. It's like I'm a server at a restaurant and I have a tray of desserts and I'm kind of nudging towards the cheesecake. I'm like, oh, get whatever you want. And I'm kind of winking towards the cheesecake. That's what I'm saying. So I tell them there are all these videos, and if you love information, you could watch all of them. But you know what, Joan? Most people think that's a lot at first. So why don't you just watch the first 4 and get through where it talks about what's called the product story and the business story, and then you and I will talk about that. Does that sound fair? Yeah. So we have an upfront agreement. We call it on our team an upfront contract. Joan and I have agreed that she is going to watch those things. She's going to click on the password. She's going to go to Get Started, and she's going to watch the first 4 or so videos. That's our agreement. Why do we do that? So there's never a game of chase, and I will never be able to say, I don't feel comfortable bringing up to Joan, I don't want to be pushy, right? Because sometimes when we sponsor people, don't we say that? I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to bug her. You already have an upfront contract. She's already agreed she's going to do it. So what you do with Joan is what you do with a prospect, right? Whenever you share a video, isn't it best to say, hey, Charlene, when would be a great time for me to check back with you? Rather than going into the chase game and then you feel weird and you look at them at church and you feel like they're looking the other way. Same with Joan. With this new team member, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to say to her, great. So to watch the first 4 videos or so, it's going to take about this much time. When do you think would be you'd have enough time to do that? Awesome. How about Friday at noon? We'll set it. We'll talk together, and we'll do it on FaceTime or on something called Zoom. We'll talk face to face, and we'll see how you feel about it, and we'll go on to the next step. Does that sound fair? Sounds great. You see how unintimidating this is? So then when I get on there, what am I going to do? And I know I'm almost finished here. When you and I get on there, if you're newer and you need experience, you need help, ask someone in your upline to help you. Okay, so when I meet with her, I don't have to have all the answers. Our system, guys, is strong enough to carry people. It's okay. You don't have to know everything. I'm just going to say, so Joan, what did you think? What questions did you have? What did you like best about it? What stood out to you? Oh my gosh, wasn't Lauren great? Do you remember that one? She was the one with the blonde hair. And oh yeah, I think I remember that. All right, so do you remember where they talked about like your story and things like that? I'm going to go through those things with you. Does that make sense? So ask Sharon for your team what you'll do when you meet up with them face to face on the computer or on the phone or in person after they've watched those first 4 videos. It depends on the person. But some people like to do what's called a startup meeting where you go through certain things. Sharon will tell you what's best. You can't do it wrong. I mean, she'll have a system for you. And some people don't do a startup meeting, like in other words, nothing official, right? They just talk. And they just say, great, how did it feel? What did you think? All right, so let's kind of talk about that. What do you think your story would be? Like, let's kind of work on that. And they just jump right in. So ask Sharon what she thinks is best. But either way, they've watched the first few videos. You connect with them right away. You go through those things, and then they're immediately going into action, right? Now, what happens to the rest of the videos? Well, if someone watched all of them at one time, then they're watched. If someone didn't, you can let them get through them as you go through that material. Does that make sense? Like, you've started them up. You're not going to just let them go. For the first 60 days, you're going to be talking, right? So you as the sponsor, make sure you say, oh, you know what? Gosh, we need to talk about that one video. Let's talk about events. We need to talk about the daily method of operation. We haven't covered that. So I'll send Sharon the little checklist that we use. But again, I want to be really clear, guys. Sometimes people hear another leader from another team have a system. They're like, oh, that's what's wrong with my business. I don't have her system. I'm truly, my team does it too. My team saw Karen Johnson do a training for something, and they're like, oh, maybe we should do that. So just know that I'm just telling you more of the Freedom Revolution and why to keep a focus on that. And then Sharon, as your leader, will tell you the details of how you guys do it. It's all the same stuff. It just kind of looks a little different sometimes. Does that make sense? So anyway, we've gotten great results. You know, a system cannot change someone's desire, right? So the system is strong and can carry anybody, but it's not the reason that you're not getting success, right? So if you have people who aren't moving forward, you just don't have enough people. You just need to bring more people into your team. I promise you. I promise you. It's not you. It's not the system. It's just that we don't have enough people. So as you bring lots of people in, the ones that will be like Joan, our perfect student here, will show up. And the system, you know, you've heard this before. People don't duplicate, systems do. Have you heard that? So if you have a simple system and you practice this Freedom Revolution, it'll be weird at first. It'll feel uncomfortable. Keep doing it. And I'm telling you, it will duplicate and you'll just feel really great. Now I'm going to give you a heads up. Okay, inside information if you don't know this. At the spring conference in Sacramento, they are making a few tweaks to the Freedom Revolution, and don't let that throw you off. They're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater. They're just making it even better, even simpler. So don't worry about that. You might look at it in 2 months and go, oh my gosh, it's different. It's okay. They're making it even better. But what we're doing now works clearly because, you know, we're getting the results. Is that, I know I went a little over time, but was that helpful, Sharon?
Yes, Jill, thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. And I love that you just did what we've been teaching people to do, to pretend you're brand new and use the Freedom Revolution with the videos and go out and follow that system and what you did as a result. So yeah, that's exactly what we've been saying. Pretend you're brand new, launch into the Freedom Revolution and follow the guides there in the system. And you're right. We need more people. It's talking to more people is the ticket, and inviting more people to come on along. So perfect. Thank you.
Sharon, excuse me 1 second. I do want to say one thing. The one thing I forgot to tell our team that we learned to not forget is that the frequently asked questions section is a brilliant, you as a sponsor are no longer answering all their questions. Take that pressure off yourself. You are a billboard. You're a signpost. You say, go there, go there. And most of the questions you won't even need to answer. All right. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you. Blessings. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to, I know everybody wants to say, whoops.
Thank you.
Wants to say, whoops. I don't know how to do this.
Oh, I mean myself. Thanks.
Okay, there we go.
Thank
Okay.
you, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. Awesome.
Everybody.
Good night.
Bye. Bye-bye.
See ya. Thank you.